Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org for more info, or you can always email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com.
And on the line with us today, we have Ken J. We'll be discussing his wonderful book, The Blind Ninja, available for purchase through Amazon as well as barnesandnoble.com. And guys, listen. Ken was brought to our network, People of Distinction, today by some of the best movers in the business. You are Link Print and Media Publishing. So if you have a book that you'd like moved, do yourself the best favor you could possibly give, and you contact You Are Link. You can find out more information on them at youarelinkpublishing.com. And guys, listen, it is an absolute pleasure to have Ken here on the line. Now, the moment you go to his Amazon page, his Barnes & Noble page, you start to do any research on his narrative, The Blind Ninja, you instantly have an idea of what we're going to be discussing today. Now, it's a fictional narrative loosely based upon realistic circumstances. And first and foremost, because it's a fictional narrative, it's going to be largely based for entertainment purposes. Now, just that in and of itself is fantastic. I don't know about you guys, but I have been yearning for something that something that could take me out of the confinement that I found myself stuck in for the past two and a half years now with this pandemic. And this book is the perfect exit strategy. But not only that, the underlying message is something that is so profound. Guys, listen, our disabilities don't define us. They're not titles that we have to wear around our neck. Now, a lot of times, based upon the circumstances and based upon the disability itself, especially if it's not something that we were born with, something that ultimately ended up happening throughout our journey, it can be difficult to juggle and to contend with. And that is something that our main protagonist here in the story has to deal with. But what I love about it is that underlying message, right? Our disabilities don't define us. We still have it well within our right to create new paths and find new opportunities. It just takes a shifting of perception and some hard work. Definitely does not make it easy. And I love the fact that we have Ken here on the line to discuss his thought process when he was creating the book, because that is truly going to help illuminate the path, not only for this particular character, but hopefully for you to be able to implement into your day-to-day lives as well. And Ken is the expert. He's written the book, he's done the research, and he is going to be able to articulate everything much better than I ever could. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Ken, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you so much for being a guest. How are you?
I'm good, and thank you for welcoming it into your program.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Ken, listen, the pleasure is all ours, and we are very much looking forward to this, not only to have another book to stack to the shelves, but also because, like I said, that underlying message, I think, is something that can be implemented. And even if we can't directly relate to the individual circumstances that your main protagonist encounters, that message is something that I know will be very, very well received. Now, Ken, I know we have so much information to cover, but before we go into your book, let's hold off slightly. Start by telling our listening audience a little bit more about yourself and your background, please.
Well, I like to travel, and I like to travel basically to take pictures, but by traveling, it gives you the opportunity to learn about each state or country or area where you're at. I also like to hike, and I do exercise to keep in shape.
Ken, thank you very much for articulating that. Listen, without further ado, The Blind Ninja. Tell us a little bit more about your book.
The Blind Ninja is about a woman who gets into gymnastics, and a few short years afterwards, an accident takes her sight. And then instead of being stuck in that rut there, her father coaxes her that she can do something more. So she reinvents herself, and by reinventing herself, she finds more success than she could ever dream of. And my character Her name is Haley. She's petite and she's very sassy.
Ken, let's go a little bit more in depth with the narrative itself. So we know that something happens to your main protagonist that kind of derails her journey. Where was the inspiration for this book? I mean, where did that come from? Was this something that was connected to your life personally and someone that you may have known or known about? Talk to us a little bit more about the inspiration behind creating this narrative.
Well, I had the idea of someone that is following their dreams, and then something happens where they can't follow it no more. This is everyday life when what happens to some people. But just because that derails you from following your dreams, that doesn't mean that you are not able to do something else. And by, say, following a different path, you might be inspiring someone else because they might be watching you.
Now, sticking with the concept of inspiration, but just making it a little bit of a broader scenario. So we know about the inspiration behind this particular narrative. Well, Ken, talk to us about the inspiration behind becoming a writer. I mean, was this something that you always wanted to do? Was this always a hobby of yours growing up? Were there artists that inspired you? Talk to us a little bit more about that.
When I was younger, I'm the type, I couldn't write, but I read about how J.K. Rowling started her Harry Potter books. And about a year and a half after my first book came out, I was at work. I got thinking of two things that was very interested to me. And then as soon as I put these two interests together, my second book wrote itself. And The Blind Ninja, then while I was writing that one, this book here, I started The Blind Ninja about halfway writing that book. So the idea, once I started writing, the ideas just came to me one right after another. So anybody that says they can't write, all you need is one idea and let your imagination run.
Fantastic advice. Guys, again, here on the line with Ken J. We're discussing his wonderful book, The Blind Ninja, available for purchase through Amazon as well as barnesandnoble.com. Okay, next question I'd love to get into. Talk to us about some of the research that you did in preparation for this book.
I was wanting a martial art you do not hear of too much. You hear about karate studios, jiu-jitsu, taekwondo. They're all over the place, but not jiu-jitsu. You almost never hear of it except for in the movies. So I was wanting a rare form of martial arts in there to help my character reinvent herself. I tried to make the story as much believable as possible that it could really happen, but until then, it just was pure inspiration coming to me.
Fantastic. So Ken, with regards to the specific research that you did, though, so we know what interested you, and really where that idea lied. But what type of research did you do?
Actually, none except for some inspiration on developing my character. And actually, the news program inspired me on how she was going to go blind. And another person inspired me to develop her attitude, and I just gave her my sarcastic mouth. But until then, everything was basically inspiration. The book was so easy to write.
And what would you say was a highlight for you, Ken? Or if not a highlight, maybe something that surprised you that you weren't expecting before you began on this journey?
Well, I once said that I could not write, and these books showed me that I could. You can't force yourself to write. It basically has to come to you by inspiration.
Mm-hmm. Ken, you mentioned that you have other books that you've written as well. We do have some extra time here. I'd love to take an opportunity and please talk to us about one of the other books that you've written or another book that you have potentially on the horizon. And please let us know about what other books you have in store.
Okay. Well, right now I've got two books out. One's called Memories of Yesterday on my photography because Photography is a love of mine. Another one is called Spirit Walker. Spirit Walker is about a guy who finds out he's a shapeshifter, and he fulfills an old prophecy and ends up living with the Native Americans. And I've got a fourth book in the works with my new publisher. The fourth one is about a family of smugglers, a crime boss trying to take over, and a pair of identical twin assassins. They're out for revenge, though.
This is something taken directly out of a Hollywood film, okay? I would love to see, and I wouldn't be surprised if I saw any of your books on the silver screen. I mean, this is something that needs to be picked up and adapted. Fantastic stuff. Guys, something for everyone. 3 books already published, 1 on the way. So you know what you have to do. Head on over to his Amazon, his Barnes & Noble pages, and pick them up the moment you pick the 3 up now, and make sure you head on there frequently to get the 4th book the moment it becomes available. You know, Ken, as we start to tie out of this wonderful interview, and at the beginning of the interview, you started to give advice already. So we've already gone in this direction, but listen, I love being an artist and having this platform to be able to pay it forward, in a sense, to other artists out there listening in. And in this instance, other writers out there listening in. Now, as we've already discussed, Ken, you have 3 books already written and published, a 4th on the horizon set to be released very shortly. So you are someone that not only has gone through the process of writing a book multiple times over, but you've also gone through the gauntlet of getting your books published, and anybody that has been through the process understands that writing the book is only half the battle. So since we have you here on the line, Ken, as we start to tie out of this wonderful interview, I'd love to take this opportunity to steal any words of wisdom you may have to offer to a new writer or someone just starting out.
If you're starting out writing, don't force it. Let the idea come to you freely, because one small idea can almost can inspire you to write an entire chapter. And have patience. Patience writing the book, and patience finding the right publisher. And it's a whole big works. But once that book comes out, that's something you can be proud of. Maybe you'll be the only one in the family to bring out a book.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love those words of wisdom there, Ken. Thank you very much for sharing. Guys, patience is a virtue, isn't it? I mean, it's one of the oldest cliches in the book. But there's a reason why it's a cliche. It's because it's steeped in reality. Patience is a virtue. It's not always easy to utilize. It's not always easy to find the strength to be patient. But once you do, I mean, there's so much value in it. And I absolutely love his words of wisdom, because, guys, you don't want to rush into anything. You don't want to rush through your novel that you're writing. And you definitely don't want to rush through getting the book published with just any old publisher. Make sure that you're doing your research. It's got to be like a relationship, right? And I remember a previous author on our network compared their relationship with their publisher to a relationship with a significant other. There's always got to be a give and take. It can't be one-sided in any relationship, but especially in that. So make sure you're taking the time, you're doing your research, and you're being comfortable and mindful of the decision that you're embarking upon. Fantastic. Guys, listen, you know what I love? Is we're at the end of the interview now. We've discussed so much information, and yet we've barely scratched the surface. I mean, there's still so much left to be discovered. You know what you have to do. I'm going to say it for you one more time, even though I know I don't have to. But let's re-impress it once more. Here in the line with Ken J. We just finished discussing his wonderful book, The Blind Ninja, available for purchase through Amazon as well as BarnesandNoble.com. And while you're at it, make sure to pick up the other 2 books that he's written and published as well. And check back in frequently for the 4th book the moment it becomes available. A wonderful journey for you to embark upon with yourself, with your children, with your significant other. But an even better gift for you to get for someone else. So you know what you have to do. Head on over to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and pick up your copies today. Ken, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you once again for being a guest with us today on People of Distinction.
Thank you for having me, sir.